There's a quiet kind of exhaustion that has nothing to do with how many hours you work today. It belongs to the person who can build spreadsheets, manage complex projects, and solve problems that make others stumble. They are competent, reliable, and often profoundly tired in a way that sleep doesn't fix. They are the adults who never learn the language of play. If you've ever been one of them, you know the feeling. It's sitting down after a long day and feeling guilty for the stillness. It's looking at people laughing easily and feeling like you're missing some vital human secret. It's the exhaustion of a life lived entirely under the weight of purpose and productivity. But here's the truth. This isn't about being serious or responsible. This is about survival patterns that were carved so deeply into childhood that they became the invisible architecture of an adult soul. For many, childhood was not a sandbox. It was a training ground. They were the child who had to grow up too fast, the one who became the family's emotional anchor, or the one whose worth was measured by how little trouble they caused. They learned early that attention, safety, and love were conditional rewards for good performance. The world taught them a brutal lesson. Seriousness gets rewarded, spontaneity gets punished. And so they traded their capacity for simple joy for the certainty of control. That trade became the foundation of everything that followed. Their mind operates like a highly efficient machine, but one that's missing a crucial component. Everything must have a measurable outcome. If an activity doesn't lead to achievement, improvement, or solving a problem, their inner critic classifies it as waste, dangerous waste. This is what psychologists call the unrelenting standard schema. It's an internal belief system that says your value as a human being is conditional upon your output. There is always more to be done, and rest must be earned through productivity. The schema doesn't allow for the concept of unconditional worth, which is the silent foundation that makes play possible. Think of their mind as a spreadsheet that's become so complex it can't process anything that doesn't fit into neat columns and rows. They've lost the ability to engage with meaningless activity, and meaningless activity is where the soul actually lives. Their inner critic isn't a voice of helpful caution. It's a full-time taskmaster, monitoring every moment for signs of unearned rest or frivolous movement. This critic has been running so long they don't even hear it anymore. It's just the background hum of constant evaluation and judgment. Watch them during leisure time, and you'll see the tragedy unfold. They can't just take a walk, it must be exercise. They can't just watch a movie, they're analyzing the cinematography or wondering if they should be doing something more productive instead. They're constantly searching for the hidden purpose behind every pause. This creates a profound deficit in what we call spontaneity. Spontaneity is the mind's ability to act without a script, to create movement purely for the joy of the experience. It's how we practice resilience, process emotions, and connect with our authentic selves. When this capacity is lost, emotions become rigid. They don't flow like water, they build up like concrete behind a dam. Play, at its core, is the mind's natural maintenance program. It's where we integrate stress, release tension, and remember what it feels like to be human rather than human doing. Without that release valve, the mind becomes a tightly wound spring, always ready to snap into anxiety or collapse into numbness. They carry a deep unconscious fear of frivolity. To them, play feels like stealing time from more important things. But what they don't realize is that play isn't the opposite of productivity. It's the fuel that makes real productivity possible. It's where creativity lives, where problems get solved in unexpected ways, where the soul remembers why any of this matters in the first place. The most heartbreaking part is watching them observe others who can laugh easily, who can be silly without self-consciousness, who can engage in activities simply because they're fun. They feel that pang of longing, that sense of watching life from behind glass, knowing they're missing something essential but having no idea how to reach it. But the real tragedy isn't what they can't do. It's what this constant performance does to their inner world. When you spend your entire life justifying your existence through productivity, something fundamental begins to break down. Your emotions lose their fluidity. Think of emotions like water in a natural river system. They're meant to flow, to move, to find their way through the landscape of your inner life. But when everything must be controlled, when every feeling must serve a purpose, Those emotions get dammed up. They become rigid, predictable, and eventually overwhelming. They struggle profoundly with vulnerability because vulnerability is inherently unpredictable. It can't be managed or controlled. It requires a kind of emotional surrender that feels terrifying to someone whose survival has always depended on staying in control. So they approach relationships like business transactions, always calculating the give and take, the risk and reward. You'll notice they often become the fixer, the helper, the rock that everyone else leans on. It's not because they're naturally more capable, though they often are. It's because focusing on someone else's problem feels infinitely safer than sitting with the terrifying, open-ended complexity of their own needs and desires. Their leisure time becomes a new set of problems to solve. A vacation becomes a logistical challenge to optimize. A quiet evening becomes a vacuum that must be filled with planning, organizing, or consuming educational content. They've lost the ability to simply exist without purpose. And existing without purpose is where peace actually lives. The guilt around rest runs so deep it feels like a physical weight. They'll sit down to relax and immediately feel the familiar anxiety rising. Their mind starts generating lists of things they should be doing instead. Rest feels like theft, like they're stealing time from more deserving activities. They've internalized the idea that they must constantly be earning their right to occupy space on this planet. This creates a profound restlessness when there are no problems to solve. Their identity has become so intertwined with being useful that without a crisis to manage or a task to complete, they feel invisible. They feel worthless. It's like their entire sense of self evaporates the moment they stop producing. What they've lost is spontaneity, not just the ability to be spontaneous, but the capacity to trust their own impulses. Every action must be filtered through the question, is this productive? Is this useful? Is this justified? The spontaneous self, the part that acts from pure instinct or joy, has been buried under layers of conditioning and control. They've also lost access to what psychologists call flow states. These are moments when you become so absorbed in an activity that time disappears, when the boundary between self and action dissolves. Flow happens naturally during play, but it requires letting go of the need to monitor and evaluate every moment. For someone locked in constant performance mode, flow feels dangerous because it means surrendering control. The exhausting performance of justifying their own existence never stops. Even their hobbies must be productive. Even their relationships must serve a clear function. Even their thoughts must lead somewhere useful. They've created a prison of purpose where nothing is allowed to exist simply because it brings joy. But here's what they don't realize. This rigid control is actually making them less effective, not more. When you can't access play, you can't access creativity. When you can't be spontaneous, you can't adapt to unexpected situations. When you can't rest without guilt, you can't actually restore your energy. The very system they've created to ensure their productivity is slowly destroying their capacity for the kind of innovative, flexible thinking that real success requires. The tragedy is that they crave the very freedom they deny themselves. They watch others laugh without self-consciousness and feel that familiar pang of longing, that sense that they're missing some essential human experience. But they've convinced themselves that freedom is frivolous, that joy is selfish, that play is a luxury they can't afford. They don't realize that play isn't a reward for good behavior. It's a necessity for human thriving. There's a moment that reveals everything about the adult who never learned to play. It happens when they watch others laugh easily, engage in silly conversation, or do something completely pointless with genuine delight. In that moment, they feel a pang of longing so sharp it's almost physical. They're witnessing something they desperately want, but have convinced themselves they can't have. It's the paradox at the heart of their existence. They crave the very freedom they systematically deny themselves. Play, at its essence, is the ultimate surrender of control. It's stepping into uncertainty without a map, engaging with the world without knowing the outcome. For someone whose survival has always depended on managing every variable, this feels like jumping off a cliff without a parachute. Their old code runs deep. If you are not useful, you are invisible. This isn't just a belief, it's a survival strategy that was carved into their nervous system during childhood. They learned that their worth was conditional, that love and attention had to be earned through performance and compliance. So when they consider letting go, when they imagine engaging in something purely for joy, their entire system sounds the alarm. What if they lose control? What if they become lazy? What if they discover they're actually not as important as they thought? What if the world keeps spinning just fine without their constant effort? This creates what psychologists call self-handicapping. It's safer to fail because you didn't try than to fail while being completely authentic. At least when you hold back, you can tell yourself that you could have succeeded if you'd really committed. But if you give everything and still fall short, what does that say about your fundamental worth? They've developed a microscope that's too powerful. They analyze joy until it feels mechanical, dissect spontaneity until it becomes strategic, examine play until it transforms into another form of work. They can't just experience something. They must understand it, categorize it, determine its value and purpose. This is the cruel irony. The same analytical mind that makes them so competent in their professional life becomes the prison that keeps them from accessing their emotional life. They can solve complex problems at work, but they can't solve the problem of their own happiness because happiness isn't a problem to be solved. It's a state to be experienced. They're missing what we might call an emotional maintenance program. Just like a computer needs regular updates and clearing of cache files, the human mind needs regular periods of purposeless activity to process stress, integrate experiences, and restore creative capacity. Without this maintenance, they become like a machine running too hot, efficient in the short term, but heading toward inevitable burnout. Watch how they process failure, and you'll see the depth of this conditioning. When a child builds a tower of blocks and it falls down, they laugh and rebuild. It's play, it's experimentation, it's learning through joy. But when the adult who never played faces a setback, they see it as evidence of cosmic inadequacy. They turn a simple rebuild into an existential crisis about their worth as a human being. They've lost the capacity to see failure as information rather than judgment. In play, there is no failure, only feedback. But in their world of constant performance evaluation, every mistake becomes a referendum on their right to exist. The fear runs deeper than just losing control. It's the fear that if they stop performing, if they stop being useful, they'll discover they don't actually matter. That the love they've received has always been conditional, tied to what they do rather than who they are. So they keep performing, keep producing, keep proving their worth, trapped in a cycle that can never actually provide the security they're seeking. But here's what they don't realize. The path back to play isn't through more control. It's through gradually, gently learning to trust that they are worthy of joy simply because they exist, that their value isn't tied to their output, that they can take up space in the world without constantly justifying why they deserve to be here. The healing doesn't happen through grand gestures or dramatic revelations. It happens through small acts of rebellion against the inner taskmaster. It's the gentle revolution of purposeless activity. It starts with tiny experiments in meaninglessness. Drawing something badly just to see what emerges. Taking a walk without a destination or a step counter. Listening to music without analyzing the lyrics or considering how it could improve your mood. These aren't just activities. They're acts of defiance against a lifetime of conditioning. The work is teaching your inner child that the world is safe enough now to put down the armor. That you don't have to earn your right to joy. That play isn't a reward for good behavior. It's a birthright you never lost, only forgot how to access. This requires what we might call radical self-compassion. You have to be willing to feel awkward, to be bad at things, to waste time in the most beautiful way possible. You have to learn that efficiency isn't the highest virtue, that productivity isn't the measure of a life well lived. The most profound healing happens in moments of pure presence. Sitting beneath a sky that doesn't explain itself, but still feels infinite. Watching clouds move without needing to predict the weather. Feeling the sun on your face without calculating vitamin D absorption. These moments teach you that peace isn't found in answers, it's found in presence. It's in the radical acceptance that you don't have to understand everything to appreciate it. That you don't have to be useful to be valuable. that simply being alive is enough of a purpose. Rest becomes not a reward to be earned, but a necessity to be honored. You begin to understand that your mind needs space to wander, to dream, to make unexpected connections. That the most innovative solutions often emerge not from focused effort, but from relaxed attention. Play teaches you that life doesn't always have to make sense to be meaningful. That joy doesn't need justification, that sometimes the most important thing you can do is absolutely nothing at all. The final insight is this: play is not the opposite of work, it's the opposite of despair. It's the language of a soul that has finally given itself permission to exist without explanation, to take up space without apology, to find wonder in the ordinary magic of being human. You are not meant to be a machine. You are a human being designed for both purpose and wonder, both achievement and joy. The world needs your competence, your reliability, your depth, but it also needs your laughter, your curiosity, your capacity to be delighted by small things. Don't let the fear of frivolity make your life feel heavy. The most profound discoveries often happen when you're not looking for them, when you're simply playing in the garden of existence.